A great 3 weeks in Ireland, starting off in Dublin, where the Easter Rising is shown at this restaurant called The Bank. Good meal, a lot of fun. We started out in Dublin, visiting Trinity College and the Book of Kells, and the library holding a lot of historic manuscripts. From there to the Jameson Distillery, which was a lot of fun, especially the tasting at the end. A new language on the signs, Gaelic. And down to Waterford, which was where our exchange home was, visiting the Waterford Crystal Factory. Then we took a ride down the Copper Coast Road, and visited these antique towns. Back in Waterford, we visited the Viking Triangle. This town was settled by the Vikings in 914. The next day to visit Cobh, which is the last stop of the Titanic before it crossed. The following day to the famine ship Dunbrody, which carried the Irish peasants back to the U.S. and Canada. Later in the day, I got a chance to go sailing with the Waterford Sailing Club, which was a total blast. There you go, we're on 100, what is it, 28? What is it? What's the class of the boat?
Formula 28.
Formula 28.
Hunter Formula 28.
Hunter Formula 28. We're doing 7.7 knots.
21 knots of breeze.
On 21 knots of breeze. What a night. Just took the ferry across this body of water. And right straight ahead is where we were sailing with it. Ship is at anchor. And right across the way is Hook's Head Lighthouse. We're taking the coast route to go there this afternoon. The Hook Lighthouse is the oldest continuously operating lighthouse in the world. The lighthouse at Sandy Hook is next, which is familiar to all of us. The cannons on this wagon would fire lines to ships that had wrecked off the coast where the lighthouse was. On the way back home, we stopped at this really neat little restaurant in this little town called the Strand Tavern. And it was, a lot of the wood in it was made up from a ship that was wrecked off the coast. On another day trip, we went to this little town called Dungarvan, as you can see in low tide, and visited these famous Mahone Falls on the way home. Little narrow roads driving around, it's pretty tricky. A visit to the Kilkenny Castle was really interesting as well. We also had the opportunity while there to meet with an old friend of mine we hadn't seen in 10 years, an old sailing friend from Marblehead who actually moved to Ireland to retire, and we ate at Matt the Miller. Really 15 minutes from our home was the 15-minute ferry that we took across to the Castle, Waterford Castle Golf Club, a top-notch hotel and restaurant. It also had an 18-hole course. After this, we also visited the Irish Agricultural Museum, which delineated the potato famine that the Irish went through in 1845s to the 60s. It was an incredible time. The blight just killed all the food that the tenant farmers were eating, and had mass poverty and soup kitchens, and many of them ended up going back to the U.S. Visited the ancestral home of JFK in 1963, and when he researched his historical relatives. Pretty impressive. We've now moved on to the Ring of Kerry. The famed Ring of Kerry, a place called Musgrave Street. It Dingle Peninsula is the way across the way here.
Continue on Ross Bay Beach Holiday Homes for one.
The Wild Atlantic Way, overlooking Port McGee and the Atlantic Ocean. This is a two-lane highway, and you're driving on the left-hand side of the road.
This isn't going to be good.
It doesn't have to be long distance.
In 200 meters, turn left.
These clips coming up are shots of really the from Valencia Island and overlooking Port McGee in that area. Really kind of spectacular. The Wild Atlantic. Next stop is Waterville, Ireland. It was really a fun stop, and the lobster restaurant provided a great lunch. O'Carroll's Beach Bar and Restaurant was the perfect stop for another Irish coffee. End of day fun stop for dinner and an Irish coffee. We drove to our new B&B from our home exchange home and established residency there so that we could do the ring of Kerry and the other spots. And it was right in the middle of the pasture, of course. This is a rough day to be at the beach. This is Inch Beach, and let me tell you, it's blowing and cloudy. Overlooking the bay from the other side, the Dingle side. Today's goal was to do the Dingle Peninsula, like we did the Kerry Ring the last time. But we got rained out, and it turned out that we decided to just head straight towards Limerick and go to the Bunratty Castle and have a beer at Dirty Nelly's, which is a bar that Faye visited in the 1970s. Next day's goal, Cliffs of Moher. Just an overall spectacular view. From the cliffs of the Moher to a place called the Burren, which is not that far away, and it's just a limestone rock, acres and acres of rocks in all types of sharp shapes. Interesting. I had to go back to Dirty Nelly's for dinner or lunch, and then went back the next day to Bunratty Castle for a proper visit of the grounds and the folk area, like Sturbridge Village in Massachusetts. It's all recreated, but that's an original castle, and it was really quite a tour. Period actors and historians. The tour was fantastic. We went all through Bunratty Castle and the folk grounds, and then we just headed to Dublin for a 2-hour drive, and went to this town called Malahide, suggested by a friend from Bunratty, from Dirty Nelly's, and went to the airport, checked in, and flew home the next day. It was a fun trip.